Hey guys! How are all of you beautiful people doing? I hope you all are having a great day. And yes, this is the next part, my Pokemon world. What would you do if you had the chance to go to a world of your choosing with the perfect start and unlimited possibilities? Well, that is what our MC received. This is a story following the birth of the strongest trainer to ever walk the planet. Going region by region, league by league, champion by champion in order to chase after his ever-fleeting sense of accomplishment. Fans scream out his name every time he enters the arena, opponents forfeit when they meet his gaze, his combat style, unforgiving to even the smallest of mistakes. Soaring above the sky itself, his figure fades from the eyes of all those who he has defeated, never to catch up. So without any delay, let's start the series. As long as the host has a tissue sample from the Pokemon in question, the system will be able to create a solution within a month's time. Rex nodded his head in contentment. He was very happy with the system he was given. It was the perfect partner, like the guy in the chair every superhero had. The hacker, technician, scientist support group they needed. It was great. He wasn't competent when it came to science since he never indulged in it in his past life, and he wasn't going to waste too much time in it in this one either. But the system covered that part for him. They worked perfectly together. Rex then sifted through the rest of the information without finding anything except a bank number. And upon looking into it, the system told Rex that there was a total of 100 million in funds sent by Giovanni himself. Rex couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard that. It seems Giovanni was a charitable man after all. It seems he had some redeemable qualities about him, he joked to himself before doing what he did best, stealing all of it. He wondered what face Giovanni would pull when he found out. Rex's system find a camera in Giovanni's office and record his reaction when he finds out what I just did, he said with a laugh. Roger, the footage will be sent to your phone when it has been recorded, it said mechanically. Rex smiled before turning his head toward the Pokemon stuck in the test tubes. Rex's system, what condition are they in? He asked seriously. According to the research data, they are not fit to be released into the wild due to failed genetic augmentation. The best course of action is to euthanize them, it said, providing a solution. Rex had a heavy expression as he heard and once again turned toward the old man before shaking his head. Rex, begin euthanizing, make sure they don't feel pain, please. Roger, painless death will be made the highest priority. Rex saw as the vital signs escaped out of the Pokemon in the liquid tubes. The machines connected to them flatlined as a jarring continuous beep could be heard. Rex's mood plummeted from his initial high at attaining the Mewtwo data. The fate of Pokemon in this world was sometimes cruel. He took the time to carefully bury them outside of the mansion before descending down into the lab once again to meet the old man. Rex pulled over a chair and sat opposite the old man, who was still unconscious. He slapped him a couple of times to rouse him from his sleep. It was successful as the old man woke up slowly and looked around in confusion before landing on Rex, who was still wearing the mask. He was still puzzled about what was going on and tried to move before realizing that he was tied up. He looked at Rex with a questioning look before something caught his eye. He stared at the empty dissection tables and tubes that were once full of Pokemon for his study, and his face morphed into one of hysteria. "Old man, what have you done? Where are they?" he yelled with a maddening expression. Rex was stunned for a second. "Rex, they're gone. I took the liberty of giving them a dignified burial," he said. "Old man, dignified? Dignified? They were test subjects for my research. And you just buried them like potatoes." he yelled hysterically. Rex could only shake his head. Rex, what you were doing was unethical, but I'm not here to talk to you about your morals and ethics. I'm here so that you can tell me what you know about the organization that funded this research, he said calmly. Old man, ha. Kid, you in deep shit for this one. Messing with people like them will only end up with you in a hole 6 feet deep. I don't actually know anything about them. Maybe that crazy Giovanni might, but not me. I just love dissecting Pokemon for my study, he said with a shrug that was restrained by the ropes that tied him up. Rex, I see. So what you're saying is that you have nothing to contribute towards what I seek? He asked. Old man, exactly. Yep, nothing at all. So you should just. He didn't even finish his words when a bang was heard. Smoke came out from the pistol's muzzle Rex held in his hands, pointed at the old man. Rex, I seem to never get what I want. I guess I'll need to pay a visit to Giovanni when I challenge his gym and get what I want out of him, he said with a shrug before throwing out Machoke's pokeball. Machoke looked around before staring at Rex silently. Rex, ready for another demolition? He asked with a wide smile. Machoke's lips arched into a mischievous smile while nodding continuously. He then proceeded to look at the lab before turning toward Rex, giving him a thumbs up. Rex nodded and ascended the flight of stairs as the sound of a muffled explosion could be heard. Rex turned and stared at the small mushroom cloud that appeared as pieces of wood, cement and even an eroded toilet seat flew everywhere. The floor where the mansion once stood was nowhere to be seen, and only a pit was revealed in its place with rubble everywhere. A black figure burst through the debris and landed a couple of meters away from Rex. Machoke patted the dust off of his body before smiling triumphantly. It seemed that Machoke had developed a love for demolishing stuff. It was therapeutic in a sense. Rex took out his motocross bike and got on it before making his way through the rough terrain that surrounded the mansion and making his way towards the inner forest to do some training. Rex was planning to evolve Weepinbell and Growlithe today since it was about time. Weepinbell especially had reached a plateau in terms of power growth and could only refine its energy and control to make up for it. Rex was planning to visit Koga at his gym to help train Weepinbell in some novel ways of using poison-types moves. He might also be able to help in his aura training. Inspiration was very useful later down the line when training. Growlithe had also seemed to reach a plateau and was struggling to release all the power inside of him without hurting himself. It was severely limiting. Marshadow and Machoke had been teaching it how to increase his fire's heat, and now it had turned blue. What he didn't expect, however, was that upon doing so there was a change in Growlithe. Its originally orange fur turned a shade of blue, which was odd but cool. The contrast between the blue and the black stripes made him look rare and powerful. The system told him that it was due to unlocking its ancient DNA. There must have been a trial all Growlithes used to do, in which upon using blue fire, their bodies would change and become much stronger. There was no information to base this claim, and it might be more in-depth and complicated, or it might be much simpler. That wasn't a problem. All he wanted to know was if Growlithe would be okay. The system scanned the Pokemon and confirmed that everything was okay and that it had just increased its muscle density and strength. Its energy levels were peaking, and it was recommended that the number of fire stones be changed from 3 to 4 accordingly. Rex was excited to see the result. He walked over to a big stone and sat on it with Growlithe in his lap before taking out 4 fire stones he had purchased every now and then. He told Growlithe to stand away from him, lest he evolves without using all 4 stones. It was a complicated process. It wasn't just a matter of touching the 4 stones, since if that was done then only one would act. No, there was a different process. one which involved immense heat to stimulate Growlithe. The system recommended the volcano on the island, which was a perfect place with tons of heat. Rex decided to follow its advice and packed the stones up and made his way over before entering a tunnel that was discovered by the system leading a kilometer down towards the center of the volcano. It was incredibly hot, which made Rex sweat. The further they walked, the hotter it became until it was finally unbearable. Rex had to cover himself in aura in order to resist the heat. It was still immensely hot, but it was barely manageable. Upon making it to a dead end, the system identified it as the best place to proceed with the evolution. He placed the stones around Growlithe in a square shape about 2 meters away from each other. The stones, upon making contact with the environment, began to glow. The heat from the surroundings began to heat up even quicker. Growlithe was even beginning to find it uncomfortable and soon found it tough to breathe. The system said that upon reaching his limit, Rex would need to throw in a 5th stone to act as the catalyst. The 5th stone wouldn't be absorbed but instead uses its energy to act as a bridge between Growlithe and the 4 other stones. Rex did as told and threw the 5th stone towards Growlithe, which fell on his chest before beginning to glow. A beam of fire spurts out of the stone and shot towards the 4 others like a disco ball, refracting light in multiple directions. The stones began to levitate and revolve around Growlithe. The stone that was close to his chest shot a light right into him as well, which started the evolution process. Rex watched on anxiously as he was clueless about what would happen next. After all, this was all the system's planning. He just looked over it to make sure that it sounded plausible. He didn't want to see Growlithe injured or dead, but it was too late to stop it now. Growlithe was enveloped in a massive ball of light that turned a shade of red, before turning orange, yellow, green and finally settling on blue. The blue seemed to seep into his fur as a royal blue stained the roots of his hair. It got lighter the further away it was until it was a neon blue at the tips. His black stripes turned neon blue, and the rest of his body went from blue to black. His claws turned neon blue, and his eyes followed. His body grew longer, and taller with massive amounts of muscle packed in tightly. His tail grew longer and fluffier but followed the same color as his hair. The blue fireball that enveloped his figure burst open with a *bang* and Arcanine's image could be clearly seen. Rex was stunned, speechless. There was no way of explaining this to anyone. This was some type of freak of nature. The heat radiating off of him was insane. Even with aura it still felt like it was searing to the touch. Arcanine, who noticed this, controlled his energy to cool down the surroundings. The initial oven-like temperatures seemed to have heard a command and lowered drastically until it was almost comfortable enough to sleep in. Rex was once again stunned. Such control over his element when so close to an active volcano is insane. Rex gazed at the majestic image of Arcanine as his flame-like mane flew in all directions. System has found the results to exceed the estimated range, it said spontaneously. Rex was surprised. It was rare for something to be out of the expectations of the system. Rex, what do you mean? He asked curiously. Due to the previous change within Growlithe involving the activation of the ancient DNA buried in his cells, the evolution has strayed from my calculations. It is no cause for alarm. Arcanine has benefited massively from this. It is estimated that it could withstand the barrage from blast cannon performed by Machoke. Rex blanked for a second. There had always been a division between Machoke and all of his other Pokémon because of the difference in power. It seemed that Machoke had some competition for the top spot now. Naturally, there was no favoritism between his Pokémon family, but Machoke did hold a special place due to him arriving in this world together. He wasn't worried though. Machoke still needed to evolve, so there was a lot of potential still hidden within him that even Rex didn't know about. The system only warned that the evolution may cause severe damage to the landscape. This was calculated based on the energy he expelled after evolving from Machop to Machoke. Rex was excited to find out, but there was still a bit of a way to go before Machoke could evolve. The system speculated that it would happen when Rex and Machoke mastered Aura, meaning when they cleared the fourth and last stage of training. Getting back to the situation at hand, Arcanine rushed towards Rex at immense speed and started to lick his face excitedly. Rex patted his soft but very warm mane that radiated a blue hue. It was like staring into a night sky. It was mesmerizing. Rex hopped on its back and told him that they were leaving. Arcanine roared happily, which made the stone walls shake vigorously. Before he could reprimand him for almost burying them inside a volcano, he was blasted in the face by high-pressured air. All he saw was blurry images. Even with his training he couldn't see anything but a blur. Arcanine was literally almost flying. His speed threatened to break Rex's neck from the amount of sudden acceleration. What took them 10 minutes to clear by foot didn't even take a minute for Arcanine as he jumped out of the cave and over the tree line before landing on the ground. He roared again as if announcing the arrival of the king. His roar echoed through the entire forest, making every single Pokémon scurry away in extreme fear. Rex was just too mesmerized by the power Arcanine was releasing to care about anything else. He told the system to scan him since he wanted to know his stats. *Ding. Name: Arcanine, the legendary Pokémon, blue and black due to special evolution. Ancient DNA status, unlocked. Level, 40. Bond, 90%. Height, 2.5 m. HP, 250. Attack, 360. Defense, 200. SP. ATK, 340. SP. Definite, 200. Speed, 320. Ability, Blue Sun. Moves: Morning Sun, Ember, Leer, Howl, Fire Fang, Agility, Flamethrower, new, Flare Blitz, new, Solar Beam, new, Iron Tail, Aerial Ace, Double Team, Will-O-Wisp, Crunch, Extreme Speed, new, Sunny Day. Rex was happy with the new moves learned. It wasn't that crazy since Arcanine by nature didn't have the most diverse of movesets, but he was still happy, nonetheless. Having Solar Beam for coverage was a nice advantage. Especially when combined with Sunny Day and Morning Sun, he was almost unkillable. Rex system, what is the Blue Sun ability? He asked curiously. He had just caught a glimpse of it and it seemed to be a new ability that was unique to him. This is an ability unique to hosts Arcanine due to it being the only one to look like this. It can be called a new subspecies of Arcanine. It has a potential that is on par with an actual legendary, it said mechanically. Rex wasn't surprised, the stats said it all, it was just stupidly strong. The ability Blue Sun is an ability that is only active when Sunny Day is active. It will boost the power of Sunny Day by 3 times the usual. Meaning all moves that are affected by Sunny Day will have 3 times the usual effect. It is almost on par with Desolate Land. The special thing about it is, only Arcanine's moves are buffed while the opponents aren't, meaning they get no boost from Sunny Day compared to normal. But it has one severe weakness: when territory-changing effects such as Rain Dance, Drizzle or Primordial Seas are active, aka water-type weather effects, Arcanine will lose 1/4 of his health every 20 seconds. Rex, it seems that when Blue Sun ability is active and Sunny Day is up, Arcanine can take on almost anything toe-to-toe and hold his own. But his weakness is outrageous as well. It seems that as long as no Pokémon has a weather change effect that is water-based such as Rain Dance, Arcanine takes the advantage. Rex was surprised but compromised. It was an amazing ability to have, and the chances of Pokémon having such weather-changing moves are limited and few and far in between. If it did appear he would simply switch him out. Rex was very happy with how it all turned out and once again hopped on Arcanine's back and headed into the densest part of the forest where a lot of plant energy was present. That was where Weepinbell would evolve. Rex enjoyed as the massive torrents of air splashed on his face. He spread his arms wide in order to feel the wind all over his body. Arcanine was having the time of its life, skipping around rocks and on top of trees and jumping over 20-meter-wide rivers as they both made their way forward. Arcanine landed in the middle of a dense forest and looked around. He roared loudly in order to scare all the Pokémon in the vicinity. Rex told him to do so since he didn't want any interruptions. Rex then told Arcanine to sit off to the side and summoned Weepinbell from its ball. Weepinbell looked around and seeing no enemies he relaxed slightly and looked towards Rex before making his way over. Rex patted Weepinbell's head and told it to stand still while he repeated the same process he performed with Arcanine. Weepinbell, who got the explanation from Rex, was ecstatic to evolve since it was incredibly hard to advance much further in its current form. Upon placing the 3 stones in a triangle shape around Weepinbell, he stepped away and got the system to check that everything was okay. He didn't want any issues to arise. As soon as the system gave the okay, Rex threw the 4th leaf stone towards Weepinbell. As soon as it touched its body, the stone began to shine. The same scene repeated itself. Green beams of light burst out of the stone and shot towards the 3 other stones that were lying there quietly. They had been glowing green brightly due to the excess plant energy in the surroundings and soon began to spin around Weepinbell. The stone that was making contact with Weepinbell separated and then shot the 4th beam towards Weepinbell, which started the evolution process. A blinding light burst forth, threatening to blind anyone present. Rex and Arcanine covered their eyes since they couldn't handle it. Alert! Chance of increasing Weepinbell's power have been detected if it's under sunny day boosted by the blue sun ability, said the system hurriedly. Rex was stunned and looked towards Arcanine, who was sitting there with his eyes covered. Rex, what does it have to do with Arcanine? He asked quickly. Weepinbell is absorbing the power of the sun right now. If it has access to more potent sunlight, it might be able to produce a massive change, said the system. Rex trusted the system. It had never once let him down or been wrong. Arcanine was an example. Rex, Arcanine. Use sunny day. He shouted. Arcanine, who was sitting there quietly, instantly stood up and sent a pulse of energy outwards. The energy traveled everywhere before amassing in the sky where the sun was located. The temperature began to rise instantly. It was reaching uninhabitable temperatures. The grass burnt up and wilted. The trees began to dry up and die. It was like a wasteland in the surrounding 100 meters. Rex, who was next to him, had to cover himself in aura in order to survive under such heat. Rex marveled at the sight before thinking that if this was still weaker than desolate land, what the hell would that be like? He soon snapped out of it. Rex, how is it, system, is that enough? He asked, getting a little anxious. He didn't want to miss such an opportunity. Yes, Weepinbell is absorbing the sunlight as is going through a complete change, it said to the relief of Rex. As he observed the situation, Weepinbell, who was submerged in the blinding light, was going through a monstrous change. It didn't even look like a normal Victreebel at all. Its body elongated and turned into the shape of a chili pepper. The leaves turned thinner and longer, much more like blades. There was a leaf covering its mouth, and attached to it was a brown vine that connected to a smaller mass that looked like scissors claw. Source: https://www.deviantart.com/nightlight9forward/art/mega-victreeble-7723111915. As soon as the evolution was over, the blinding bubble burst open and Victreeble could be seen. It was much more streamlined, and a lot more menacing. Rex gaped at the sight. This couldn't be called the same Pokémon. One looked like a potato with leaves and the other looked like something taken out of a horror movie. The tail looked around as if sentient. It stared at Rex for a moment before looking away. Victreeble rushed towards Rex and rubbed its head against his leg. Rex system, show me his stats. *ding. Name: Victreeble the Hunter Pokémon. O Ancient DNA status, locked. O Level, 45. O Bond, 93%. O Height, 2m. O HP, 200. O Attack, 320. O Defense, 190. O SP. ATK, 310. O SP. Definite, 200. O Speed, 200. O Ability, Merciless, Chlorophyll. O Moves: Vine Whip, Growth, Giga Drain, Sleep Powder, Poison Powder, Sunny Day, Synthesis, Magical Leaf, Stun Spore, Solar Beam, Power Whip, new, Leaf Tornado, new, Leaf Blade, new, Toxic, new. Rex was very satisfied with the new moves learned. Power Whip was an amazing addition to Victreeble's arsenal. Rex turned his focus on the ability that appeared next to Chlorophyll. There was also a difference between the Pokédex name and the one the system gave. Rex, what is this new ability system? And why is it the Hunter Pokémon instead of the Flycatcher Pokémon? Due to the evolution, the Pokémon has morphed into something new. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that this one is the next evolutionary step in the Victreeble line. Host's Victreeble is the ultimate hunter. Sharing its sight and senses with the tail it has, it basically achieves full 360 vision. It can also attack independently and can cast moves independently. It has limited sentience though. You could say it is similar to Zweilous except better, as it skips through the trouble of deciding the main head. It is also better as it retains some of its sentience, which allows for much more complex movements and attacks. As for the ability, it is basically a scaling ability. The more damage Victreeble inflicts to its opponent, the more attack or special attack it gets in return. This can be chosen by Victreeble freely. After a quarter of the opponent's health is taken away, Victreeble will receive 0.5 stages worth of power that can be assigned to either the attack stat or the special attack stat. For example, if Victreeble beats Machoke, it will have gained 2 stages worth of power. But, as soon as the next Pokémon appears, it will lose 1 out of the 2 that it gained previously. It is similar to Moxie, but the effects are shown throughout the fight, not after. There is also a hidden loophole. If the opponent switches out before the current Pokémon has been taken down, Victreeble's accumulated stages won't be halved since no Pokémon was knocked out. Rex was surprised. There was a similarity between Merciless and Moxie, but the former was better since it scaled mid-fight. And if the opponent was not careful and switch out multiple times while Victreeble was still on the field, he would become a one-man army. Rex was shocked at its explanation and turned towards Victreeble, who was getting familiar with its new tail-like thing that was now attached to it. Rex noticed that it was much faster than before. Its blade like leaves stuck on his side cut the wind wherever he went. It was a sight to behold. What Rex found most interesting was that the temperament of the two recently evolved Pokémon had changed quite a bit compared to how they used to act and behave. Arcanine, who was always cheerful, jumping and running around, was now loafing about enjoying the shade as it observed Victreebel. It seemed the evolution affected the temperament and personality of Pokémon. When Rex thought about it, he concluded that I was like they grew older when they evolved. They would be happy and naive when they were little, but as they grew stronger and evolved, their personality would change. It was only surprising since it came so suddenly and abruptly. Victreebel was the opposite. He wasn't as gentle as before. He was still brave, but there was a certain danger that lurked in the air whenever he was around. It seems that Victreebel had really become the optimal hunter. Rex was happy with his two team members evolving and becoming stronger. Rex recalled the menacing Victreebel back into its Pokeball and hopped onto Arcanine's back. It seemed that there was one constant thing with Arcanine. It would still act like a child when Rex interacted with him. They made their way back towards the city at a rapid pace. It only took 5 minutes to arrive at the outskirts of the city, where the dirt roads became asphalt and much cleaner. Rex hopped off of Arcanine and recalled him back into his Pokeball before summoning his bike again. He hopped on and zoomed into the city and into a restaurant where he would eat. He didn't want to attract attention to himself while riding Arcanine. After all, he stood out like a sore thumb. Rex ate his dinner in a nice restaurant and headed back to his hotel where he would spend the night. Tomorrow he would be heading to the port where a small ship was waiting for him. It was smaller since not many people were heading to Pallet Town, to begin with. The day soon passed and the morning sun rose from the east. The sun shone on Rex's face as he awoke to the sound of a woman singing. He got up, washed his face and got changed. All while still hearing the pleasant melody. He wanted to see who it was, but by the time he peered out the window, there was no one there. Elisa, who had just finished her song, walked out with a suitcase as she prepared to travel the island in search of adventure. She had heard talk about an explosion out in the forest and the roars of a Pokémon so loud it caused a small Pokémon tide to rush into the city. She wanted to see if she could see it and maybe even take a picture so that she could show it to Rex when they met again. Elisa, wait. Why would I want to show that guy, Humph? Kissing me without my permission? I'll make sure to zap him when I get the chance. She vowed angrily before storming off. Rex Akuu. What the hell? Allergies. As if God just chucked in susceptible to allergies, in there secretly, he joked, only to sneeze again. He shook his head, sighed and packed his bags. Upon leaving the hotel he made his way over towards the pier where the boat was waiting for him. It was still public, but as he got there, he found that it was going to be delayed due to heavy storms. Rex, right, because a storm is so scary. Fuck it, I'll go by myself, he grumbled before walking towards a shop where they sold small boats. He bought one that had a strong motor in it, cover from the rain, and was brand new. Cost him $200,000. But he didn't mind spending Giovanni's money. He soon walked over with the manager and arrived in front of his new boat. He thought about riding Gyarados, but it would be a couple of days before they got there, and they needed to take breaks and sleep. He wouldn't have anywhere to sleep if he rode on Gyarados. Plus, it was unfair on him. He didn't see them as modes of transportation. He didn't mind riding on them when there was a place to rest being constantly available. After sending off the manager, Rex asked the system to pull all the information available on how to use a boat. He had never had the chance to use one, so this was a first for him. It didn't take long before all the information was sent to him via the system. He instantly became a veteran sailor. There were a couple of old men who were sitting by the docks looking on, eager to see the young, overconfident lad fail at sailing a boat. Rex started off making mistakes, since having knowledge and being able to apply it smoothly were two different matters completely. The old men began to laugh with "I knew it" expressions written all over their faces. Rex, who was oblivious to this, didn't falter, and soon got the hang of it. In the next 20 minutes, he was already sailing away into the vast ocean and towards Pallet Town. "Old man 1H, how did he just do that?" he asked his friend as he stared at Rex's boat sailing over the horizon. "Old man 2, no idea, but it was shocking to witness nonetheless," he said with his mouth agape. There was only silence for a good few minutes before the two men broke into laughter. It would take around 2 days for Rex to get to Pallet Town via boat. He wasn't in a rush for time though, and decided to lay back and enjoy the ocean. He saw all kinds of Pokemon: Goldeen, Seekings, Seadras, Kingdras, Magikarp, Gyarados, Tentacools, Tentacruels, Seals, Dugongs, Staryu, Starmie. It was an amazing sight. Rex threw Gyarados' Pokeball into the water, and upon opening, a massive red Gyarados came out. Gyarados, who had just landed in the water, looked around before spotting Rex. He only waved Gyarados off, telling him to enjoy himself. Gyarados was over the moon and instantly descended towards the depths of the ocean where strong Pokemon lay. Rex wasn't concerned in the least about the possibility of Gyarados being beaten. There were few monsters in the ocean that were even slightly comparable. Rex observed the massive Wailord that was swimming next to the boat as it curiously observed Rex eating his chicken drumstick. Rex, who saw this, stretched the hand out that held the drumstick towards the Wailord. The whale-like beast slightly opened its mouth and ate the tiny drumstick that it couldn't even taste. That's how Rex spent his time. He didn't train, he didn't study, he didn't do anything except enjoy the very pleasant sun and the rhythmic waves of the ocean banging on the side of his boat. It was also hypnotic, as he soon fell asleep on his beach chair stuck on the front of the ship. Gyarados was having just as much fun. It had been battling anything that was even remotely strong. From strong Starmie with Recover and Aqua Ring, to Kingdra and their Dragon-type moves. It was great experience for Gyarados, who didn't have much. He acted arrogantly, but he was still naive when it came to the outside world. He cherished his time with Rex since it allowed him to be this strong. He was constantly reminded of this every time he saw another Gyarados who was barely half his size. He even marveled at his own size and strength sometimes. Naturally, when he came upon the behemoth that was Wailord, Gyarados was humbled severely. The size difference was just too big to be comparable. As he searched deeper and deeper, he couldn't find anyone else who would even dare look in his direction. This heavily disheartened him, as he expected a much tougher time down here. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, a deep rumbling roar could be heard from the depths of the ocean. A white silhouette zoomed from side to side before crashing into Gyarados, who was unprepared. But it would be insulting to think that did much damage at all, and Gyarados simply shrugged it off as if he didn't feel it. The Pokemon who attacked him was surprised, since this had never happened before apart from when it battled Ho-Oh. That's right, it was Lugia, Guardian of the Seas. It had been traveling around the Kanto Sea since it was bored and was residing here for a couple of days. When it felt the vibrations coming from outside the cave it was sleeping in, it was annoyed and decided to deal with the brat. Who would have thought it would tank the hit as if it was hit with a pillow? Gyarados was also surprised. He had never seen this kind of Pokemon before, but sensing the energy radiating out of it, Gyarados knew it was up there as one of the strongest Pokemon he had ever fought. He didn't think it was the strongest simple because there was no one who could beat Big Brother Machoke. Upon thinking of the thrashing he got even after evolving, Gyarados decided to unleash it all on the Pokemon who had attacked him without warning. Roar! Gyarados roared so loudly the water rippled on contact. Lugia didn't want to be outdone and roar again, equally or even slightly louder. Gyarados wasn't happy with the result and sped forward head first. He used Giga Impact right off the bat. Lugia was prepared and used Protect just as Gyarados was about to hit it. As he collided with the barrier that formed spontaneously, he didn't have enough time to react before a massive amount of psychic energy collided with him, smashing him into the seafloor. Gyarados didn't hesitate to get back up with only slight injuries. Gyarados didn't want to hold back and created his deadliest hydro pump to date. It was as thin as 10 centimeters in diameter. It was stronger than a jet cutter. Lugia, who was still complacent, was shocked as it felt more danger than it had ever felt before. Somehow it knew that if that attack landed on a vital spot, it would die instantly. Lugia used Light Screen to reduce the damage and then used Agility to get away. But it was too optimistic. The jet cutter-like hydro pump appeared in front of it in an instant and hit right on its left wing. The damage was completely not characteristic of hydro pump. It did too much damage. Lugia was instantly blasted back before smashing into a rock. It didn't stay there long and used Recover to gain back all the health it lost and managed to dodge the second hydro pump that was coming over. Lugia was now serious. It didn't know how this Gyarados was so powerful, but it still held the advantage when it came to sustainability. The battle continued for 10 straight minutes with no winner decided. They were both still in good health, Lugia due to recover and Gyarados, who was a little more banged up but managed to stay strong by using an empowered Aqua Ring that recovered 1/4 of his health every 10 seconds. Rex, who was on the surface, stared at the raging waves that threatened to turn his little boat over. He was not happy with whatever did this, as they had ruined his perfectly lovely nap. Rex, you better not let me catch you, he cursed. Lugia and Gyarados paused for a moment and suddenly shivered. They looked at each other in puzzling silence for a moment before continuing their battle. The battle continued to ensue until Gyarados couldn't hold anymore. It was a commendable effort, but the sustain on Lugia proved to be superior to Gyarados. He was soon forced higher and higher until he broke the water's surface and into Rex's sight. Rex was shocked. He had never seen Gyarados so injured since he found him lying on the ground as a Magikarp. But before he could search for the culprit, a white colossal shadow burst out from the water after Gyarados and flapped its powerful wings, causing a massive gale to rise. Rex stared at Lugia in shock. He finally realized who could force Gyarados into such a miserable state. He recalled the injured Gyarados back into his Pokeball and stared at Lugia. He had a Pokeball in his hand ready just in case. "Your Gyarados is strong, boy," said a voice inside of Rex's head. It reverberated, causing him a slight headache. "Rex, so you can talk?" he said without thinking. "HMPH. Don't insult me, boy," it said angrily. "Rex, why did you hurt him?" he asked after calming down enough to talk with rational thought. "He was disturbing my sleep. He asked for it. But I must say, he is one of, if not the strongest Gyarados I have seen in decades. Potentially even centuries." Its words surprised Rex. It had always been a mystery as to whether some legendaries, like Ho-Oh and Lugia, reproduced. It seemed that they lived for centuries, and on the off chance that they did reproduce, it would be after a long time. Otherwise, a lot of Lugias would be running around today and something similar to Arcanine would happen. Rex, I apologize for his attitude and actions. He was looking for powerful opponents and it seems he found someone he couldn't beat, he said. HMPH. Of course, I have not lost a single battle since that annoying bird. That was the only battle I ever drew, it said with anger and helplessness. Rex, you wouldn't be talking about Ho-Oh, would you? He asked. He was sure of it, but it was better to ask and make sure. What other birds are there that are on my level? Those 3 mediocre birds you have in this region are barely superior to chickens. It said arrogantly. Rex was stunned. He had never met someone who thought so lowly about the 3 legendary birds. But it wasn't completely wrong in a sense. Compared to Lugia and Ho-Oh, the 3 were pretty subpar at best. Rex, well, since you have never lost, why not take the chance to experience it now? He said with a smile. Lugia's face showed surprise, contempt and arrogance. It didn't believe that it could lose, it had never done so, it couldn't imagine losing. But it was curious as to what the young man before it would show. Very well, if you are going to use a land Pokémon, I can make a piece of land for you, it suggested. Rex was surprised that it would actually play fair. Don't give me that look, I would not take it as a proper win if it wasn't under fair conditions. Plus, I'm eager to see what you will show me if it's stronger than your Gyarados, it said with slight excitement. Rex couldn't help but shake his head. He didn't expect Lugia to be such a battle maniac. There seemed to be a ton of them running around. He knew exactly what Pokémon he was going to bring out. He was incredibly eager to see what damage it could cause. He nodded and accepted the offer Lugia gave him. It therefore took the time to create a platform made of rock and ice mixed with sand. It practically made an island that could support itself against a very strong attack. Rex was shocked that it could do that. Upon completing the island, Lugia hovered there looking on with an expectant gaze. Rex didn't want to keep it waiting and immediately threw out the Pokeball. Asterisk pop asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. A massive roar was heard, and a torrent of air was released at high pressure that smashed into Lugia's face. Lugia was shocked since this kind of pressure was close to if not the same in strength level as that of Ho-Oh. What appeared wasn't its old rival though, but a black and blue dog Pokémon that looked calm and dignified even when facing it. Arcanine looked upwards and saw a massive white and blue Pokémon staring at it with incredible battle intent. Arcanine, which had a calm and composed look, didn't flinch or react much and just stared back at it mockingly. He was no longer awed at the sight of strong Pokémon. He wants to reach the peak and show everyone that it was the strongest, and the Rex was the strongest. This Pokémon was not worth wasting emotion on. It was simply a stepping stone. Rex was shocked to see the composure Arcanine possessed and was sure that there was some kind of change that occurred deeper within him than just a physical one. He could only wait and see what it would be. Lugia was infuriated at the look Arcanine gave it. Not even Ho-Oh dared to look at it like that, but an overgrown dog dared to. Arcanine didn't react to anything it did and simply waited for a command calmly. Rex nodded happily and looked up at Lugia with a smile. Rex, are you ready? He asked. HMPH. Show me what you can do. And so the battle begins. Everyone place your bets, place your bets. Rex Arcanine, let's start off strong, use Sunny Day. He said confidently. Arcanine roared happily and converged energy into his body before launching it into the air. The initially cool and soothing ocean breeze turned into a heat wave that threatened to cook you alive. Lugia was shocked at the sky-high temperatures that continued to rise. When it raised its head up to the sky, it was surprised to find that the sun was no longer orange and bright but blue and gloomy. The water on the surface started to boil and let out steam which covered the field. Rex, who saw this, was very happy and didn't let up. Rex Arcanine, use Howl. Arcanine raised its head up towards the sky and used Howl. The deafening roar made the air vibrate and the water surge. He had increased his attack stat by 1 stage and his teammates by half a stage. Lugia was now in a bind. It could no longer use water moves and therefore turned towards rock-type moves. It spread its energy outwards before having 3 massive boulders rise from the seafloor at extreme speeds. They orbited around Lugia for a moment before launching themselves at Arcanine. Rex grinned. There was no way that was going to hit Arcanine. Rex Arcanine used extreme speed to climb up the boulders and hit Lugia, he said quickly. Arcanine instantly disappeared from where he was as if he was the Flash. He only left an afterimage where he last stood and was only seen for a fraction of a second on the first boulder. As soon as he launched himself upwards towards the second one, the first boulder shattered under the pressure from Arcanine's legs. He did the same thing until he finally jumped off from the third boulder and hit Lugia squarely on the stomach, blasting it into the water. Arcanine landed back on the ground gracefully with his calm face intact. It wasn't long before the massive beast emerged from the water and took to the sky again. It used Recover and got back all the health it lost after that attack. Very strong Pokémon you have there, young man. In terms of power it is up there for sure. And that's not even mentioning its speed. I had a tough time keeping track of him. But it will not be enough to beat me, it said confidently. Rex Arcanine, use double team and then extreme speed, he said with a wide grin. Rex, how are you going to keep track of 4 Arcanines all running at you? He asked half mockingly, half curiously. Lugia was not happy with the counter Rex used, as it was already hard keeping track of 1, let alone 3 more. It used Reflect, and then cast Future Sight on Arcanine. Rex was surprised to see it come up with a good solution so quickly. Reflect blocked 50% of all physical attacks, which was effective against multiple hits. Arcanine and his clones rushed forward and bashed into Lugia but didn't even cause that much damage. When the barrage of attack was done, Lugia simply used Recover and it was back to full health. Rex grimaced at the sight. No wonder Gyarados lost. Rex Arcanine now. Use Will-O-Wisp. He said quickly when he saw that Arcanine was close enough for the move to hit. Lugia, who had just finished using Recover, couldn't dodge fast enough and was hit by Arcanine's Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp burned the target for 1/8 of their health and lowered their attack by 50%. It was a great move. Lugia, who was now permanently burned, was helpless to do anything about it. After all, it didn't have the move Refresh to get rid of the status effect. Plus, it now did 50% less physical damage. It was in a bad position. Luckily there was still its untouched special attack stat. It gathered up psychic energy and sent an extra sensory at Arcanine. As soon as it hit, Arcanine was pushed back and crashed into the floor. Rex tried to get it to use Crunch, but Arcanine flinched. Lugia took this time to use Calm Mind and completed it successfully. Rex grimaced. He didn't expect Arcanine to flinch on the first try, and Future Sight was inbound. He didn't know if Lugia had Rain Dance or not, since if it did, it would be all over. Rex couldn't wait anymore, he had to finish this off quickly. Rex Arcanine, use Flare Blitz. He said seriously. Arcanine, who had recovered from its flinch, started to flare up with blue flames. It sprouted from his mane and soon covered his entire body. He pushed off the ground and zoomed towards Lugia at terrifying speeds. Lugia knew it shouldn't take this head-on and therefore used agility to move out of the way. But just as it did, it heard Rex's voice again. "Rex, now. Use flamethrower," he said quickly. Almost immediately a massive 10-meter wide blue wall of flames covered Lugia's vision as they collided. Lugia didn't have a light screen up and therefore took the full hit from flamethrower. A flamethrower that did 3 times the damage. Lugia fell out of the sky in a massive ball of blue flames and crashed into the water. The blast released massive amounts of steam, smoke and fire. The waves splashed against the recently made island and threatened to submerge it. Arcanine easily resisted the water by using flamethrower. Lugia, who was severely hurt, emerged from the water with a menacing look. It used recover and got back most of its health, but not completely. And with the burn status, it was losing small amounts of health constantly. It was in a bad state. "How could I forget? I had Rain Dance the whole time," it said angrily in realization. It seemed that in its thirst for battle with a new and strong opponent, it forgot about Rain Dance. Rex was not happy though, because this would put Arcanine in a terrible position. And there was no way Lugia was about to let Arcanine use Sunny Day successfully after suffering such damage. While he was thinking this, future sight appeared and smashed into the unprepared Arcanine. It did a ton of damage and Arcanine was left on the floor. "Rex, Arcanine, use Morning Sun," he said quickly. Arcanine began to absorb the rays of intense sunlight and healed up fully. "Rex, Arcanine, we can't let Lugia use Rain Dance. Use Extreme Speed into Crunch," he said quickly. Arcanine nodded heavily. He knew just as well what Rain Dance would mean for him. He had no way of winning if that was to happen. He sped forward while cracking the ground with his steps. He was going full force. He broke the sound barrier and arrived right in front of Lugia, to its absolute shock. Lugia only heard a sonic boom before feeling a terrible pain on its wing. When it turned its head, it saw Arcanine biting down with incredible force, with black energy oozing out of his mouth. Lugia flapped its wings and got Arcanine off of its wing and sending him back to the ground. Arcanine landed smoothly and didn't sustain any damage from the fall. Arcanine had managed to inflict a good hit on it. Lugia used recover but was only able to reach about half health, and there was a 10-second cooldown between recovers. Rex didn't want to give it any opportunity. "Rex, Arcanine, use double team and then aerial ace," he said quickly. Aerial ace could not miss no matter what happened on the field. In a way, it was one of the most overpowered moves. Only moves like Protect, Quick Guard and the like could block it. Arcanine didn't hesitate and duplicated himself into 4 and sped toward Lugia again at fast speed. The 4 Arcanines spread out and formed a circle around Lugia before flashing and appearing in front, behind, right and left of it. Lugia didn't panic and used Psychic to blast them all away. Arcanine's attack was about to be unsuccessful when a 5th Arcanine came from below and clawed Lugia on the stomach. He had intentionally made 1 less before in order to trick Lugia into thinking that 3 was the limit. It worked perfectly and once again Lugia took damage. "Enough," it yelled before blasting everything in the vicinity away with Hurricane. "No more playing games," it said angrily and sent a pulse of water energy into the sky. The originally blistering hot sun up in the sky began to turn back to a normal orange, and before long, black clouds rolled in with rumbling thunder. Rex's face was completely scrunched up and twisted. This was the worst possible scenario. He only had 80 seconds to set up Sunny Day successfully. If he could do so, there was a chance to win this. Arcanine looked up at the sky and began to feel a slight pain that was getting progressively worse the more the rain hit him. This was the side effect of Blue Sun. Arcanine focused solely on Lugia, who was in front of him. Rex Arcanine use Howl again and then double team. He spoke. There was not much he could do except keep it busy with Crunch before setting up a sunny day. Arcanine roared again and increased his attack to stage 2. He then split himself into 6 and lined up properly. Lugia couldn't tell the difference, but it was the same either way. Hurricane couldn't miss in the rain. It began to channel Hurricane and a wild gale spun around it. Rex Arcanine, we can't get hit by that, use Leer, he said quickly. A blinding ray of light shot out from Arcanine's eyes for a moment and directly blinded Lugia, successfully interrupting it. The wild wind calmed down instantly. Lugia didn't bother about it and used Thunder, another move that had 100% accuracy in the rain. Rex grimaced slightly. It was neutral, but it would still cause damage and he didn't want to run the risk of being paralyzed. Rex Arcanine used extreme speed into Flare Blitz, he said. He wanted to try a new combo move. The blinding speed from extreme speed which broke the sound barrier, and then just before impact, use Flare Blitz. A meteor move. Arcanine did as he was told, and his figure faded slowly. It was actually only an after image. The real Arcanine was already halfway towards Lugia. He jumped up off the ground, which created a massive crater, and began to soar into the air due to momentum. His speed didn't decrease and instead increased. He was barreling straight towards Lugia. As he approached, Lugia saw flickers of blue flame being ignited in Arcanine's mane that soon engulfed his whole figure. Reflect had worn off by now. It had taken too much damage from the crunch and shattered. Lugia, who was currently channeling Thunder, was trying to speed it up and finally finished it. As Arcanine was about to clash head-on, a massive thick thunderbolt surged downwards at immense speed. Just as Arcanine smashed into Lugia, he slid downwards by accident, which unintentionally positioned Lugia in the way of the thunderbolt. Lugia, who saw this go down in slow motion, had its face deformed from the frowning. It was first hit by a strong Flare Blitz even when suppressed by the rain, and then it was hit by a full power Thunder it had summoned. The second attack did much more damage than the first, and Lugia was sent plummeting into the ocean once again. Rex, great. Arcanine, use Sunny Day, he said hurriedly. Arcanine was about to use it when a massive boulder smashed into his head, burying him straight into the ground. Lugia emerged with a smile. It saw the effect and nodded before using Recover to get back a little over half. Arcanine burst through the rubble with a messy look, and before it could get a stable footing, the first 20 seconds were up, and it had lost 1/4 of its health. It was based on his current health, so it was less but still a big chunk. Arcanine dropped to the ground from the pain. Rex looked at this with a helpless expression. Lugia, who was charging up another Thunder, was about to set it off when a massive shadow loomed over the entire island. Rex, Arcanine and even Lugia looked up at the sky. Lugia suddenly became indignant. No fair. Why must you ruin everything? It screamed angrily. Rex was confused, but his doubts were cleared when the clouds parted and a massive red, white and gold bird descended and landed in front of Arcanine. Don't you get it, you useless thing? This here is no ordinary Arcanine, it said angrily as it stared at Lugia. What's so special about it? It's just blue, said Lugia with a pout. TCH, of course, you've forgotten. Don't you remember what happened when one of these last appeared? Asked Ho-Oh with an annoyed expression. Lugia took another look at Arcanine and suddenly widened his eyes. Why you don't mean to say that this D-dog is related to him, do you? It asked in shock and realization. You seem to not be entirely dense. That is exactly the point. This Arcanine has awoken the legacy hidden deep within its veins, said Ho-Oh to the surprise or Rex. Rex was curious about what they were talking about. He knew it had something to do with Arcanine awakening his ancestry DNA. But that was all he knew. He was sure that the change Arcanine went through went deeper than just a physical one, and it seems that it was indeed the case. He also began to wonder if Machoke had something similar going on with him. He came to this world with the ancient DNA active. He wondered what that would mean. Maybe he could get these answers from Ho-Oh today. Rex, excuse me, but are you talking about the ancient DNA inside a Pokemon by chance? He asked. Ho-Oh looked down at Rex and observed him for a moment before nodding. Interesting young man. To have achieved aura and to this level and purity at such a young age is impressive. And to answer your question. Basically yes, but it stems far beyond just that. Some Pokemon used to be able to achieve massive boosts in power when they met certain conditions set by their race bloodline. And in saying that, it seems that your Arcanine has done just that. Each species that can do this are incredibly secretive about such things, but I must, out of my own curiosity, ask, do you know how he achieved this? It asked while looking at Arcanine intensely. Rex, I'm sorry, but I have no clue how he achieved it. He lied. There must be a reason that it was secret, and he did not wish for this to spread since it could become a problem for him. Ho-Oh looked at Rex for a moment before nodding with helplessness. It does not matter. But I must say, young man, cherish this Pokemon, for it is rare beyond belief, it said seriously. Rex, I treat him like family whether he is or isn't special, he said truthfully and adamantly. Ho-Oh nodded contently. Very noble of you. But I must tell you, across the centuries, there has only been one other Arcanine to achieve what this little one has. He could easily surpass us in power, and he even had another form when he got serious. I got the privilege to see him demonstrate, and I must say, if nobility existed amongst Pokemon, he would be up there, it said with awe. Rex was shocked that Ho-Oh, an immensely powerful Pokemon, would say that about another. He couldn't help but look at Arcanine and think about what form he was hiding. Maybe he could glean something from his Mega Evolution. Rex, I see. Well, thank you for the heads up. I was wondering if you could tell me where I could find you in a couple of weeks. I think I'll be able to show you something interesting then, he said with a playful smile. Ho-Oh looked at Rex's smile and then at Arcanine and couldn't help but think of something. But it shook its head quickly. There was no way that would be possible. I will meet you at the top of the volcano on Cinnabar Island in 4 weeks. If you are able to show me something special, I will give you something good, it said and began to flap its wings. Rex, hold on, I have something else that I would like you to see, he said quickly. Ho-Oh, which was about to fly away, stopped and looked down at Rex again with curiosity. Go on, little one, it said calmly. Rex nodded and grabbed Machoke's Pokeball, but as soon as he did he saw Ho-Oh and Lugia flinch heavily and look at the Pokeball in his hand in shock. He didn't know what was going on, but he didn't stop and threw it out anyway. As soon as Machoke burst out of his Pokeball, a wave of heavy pressure descended on everyone present. Machoke, who had just appeared, glared at the two legendaries. Lugia and Ho-Oh looked at each other in shock and then at Machoke, who stood there with its arms crossed like a mountain. See, child, how can you have such a Pokemon? Asked Ho-Oh, who had by now lost its composure. Rex was really puzzled this time. He thought that awakening ancient DNA would only be like a boosted version of the original. Why were they then acting like this? He was really suspicious this time. There must be something going on that goes beyond his original conjecture. The martial god poke. Lugia, shut your mouth, screamed Ho-Oh and sent Lugia flying with a kick. Rex was shocked. Martial god Pokemon. He was confused. Rex system, what are they talking about? He asked. System has no research and cannot provide the host with a definitive answer, but I can, however, provide an educated guess. According to the information we have just received, there is a connection between awakening the ancient DNA within Pokemon, and a hidden form or potential of sorts. Martial God Machamp, that must be why it needs to master Aura in order to evolve. The system did warn the host to go somewhere desolate when that happens. It seems this is why. A type of legacy will awaken, and it will be destructive. Rex suddenly understood. Everything was connected. Awakening ancient DNA was a sort of legacy, and there must be only a few species that have this. He didn't believe that all species of Pokemon had this opportunity. As it would be something it would awaken before they reached their final form. He sighed slightly since that meant the Victreebel was not going to be able to awaken its dormant DNA. It seemed that his evolution was simply unrelated. As for Arcanine, he was just lucky. He didn't know the prerequisite to trigger the mutation. It was hidden and the system as of now couldn't find a solution. Rex, I see, so just like Arcanine, Machoke here must be a legacy receiver. He said, acting ignorant. What a headache. Child, do you know you hold two monstrous Pokemon in your hands? These two right here are part of a species legacy inheritance. There are usually two variants. One is light and the other is dark. One can be forcefully awakened by killing enough Pokemon from your own species. But it would range in the tens of thousands. It is a great sin. That is the dark path. The other is the path of light. It must meet certain conditions in order to awaken this part of the legacy. And since it has no easy way around it, it is the stronger of the two, it said before staring at Machoke. You are destined to fight a great adversary, Machoke. For your brother has already awakened, it said helplessly. Rex was shocked. Someone had actually killed that many of the Machamp species. Who could do such a thing? As if answering Rex's question, Ho-Oh spoke again. I have heard of a man. A vicious man. A collector of sorts. He is on a mission to create a team full of legacy inheritor Pokemon. He already has one. A Machamp that looks identical to yours. I implore you, you cannot let your Machamp lose. For the loser will die, and the winner will be whole, and receive the full inheritance. I pray your Arcanine never meets its other half, for that fight will also only bring destruction to everything around it. As for your eventual fight between your Machamp and his, it will be left up to fate. If can, I will provide assistance, it said solemnly. Rex was shocked. He couldn't believe that there was someone who was after such a team. He understood the appeal, but to kill thousands of the same species just to achieve it, multiple times at that, was simply ludicrous. I came up with his idea literally as I was writing this. Please give me feedback on what you think of this idea. There were some comments saying that Victreebel should be one, but if his whole team was full of legacy inheritance Pokemon it would just be plain stupid. They will have mutations, but the ancient DNA is a legacy trait. It will be renamed as such from now on. So when other Pokemon evolve and look different, that does not mean that they have obtained a legacy. Just wanted to make the clear. Hope you enjoyed it. Rex's thoughts swirled in his mind like a whirlpool. He didn't know if that person knew of his existence, but Ho-Oh mentioned an eventual fight. He only knew that no matter what, Machamp could not lose the fight. But thinking about Machoke, who wasn't even a Machamp yet, and the other who had already evolved for who knows how long, he didn't believe that he would win. But he wasn't alone. Rex still had his other Pokémon ready to battle and support their friend. He was confident in being able to at least draw with the opponent. And even more so when Ho-Oh would potentially intervene. Some legendaries couldn't be compared to one another. He just needs to make sure to train harder. Getting Machoke to evolve was now one of his top priorities, since the faster he evolved the stronger he would become. Rex didn't know when he would meet that man, nor did he know in what location and if it was to his advantage. Plus, thinking about his complacency back at the Pokesmall, which used to have a recording of Machop on it, didn't help at all. He said used to, because he told the system to delete all traces of it as soon as possible. But it has already been a week or two since then. There was too much of a risk. He didn't believe that someone who was after the second half of the legacy would simply ignore a rare Machop that matched the physical description of his Machamp appearing suddenly. He sighed helplessly and reaffirmed his conviction. Machoke, who saw Rex's determination, also became determined and motivated. He would increase his aura training until he was ready to evolve. Ho-Oh, who saw all of this, nodded in acknowledgement. He was happy that the two wouldn't slack, but it wasn't confident in their chances. But as it said before, it would all be up to fate. If there is nothing more, young man, we'll be taking our leave. Train hard, and prepare, for he is coming. Whether that is sooner or later, the result is the same. Confrontation is unavoidable. I pray for your success, it said truthfully, and flew away at incredible speeds. In only a few flaps of its wings, it had already disappeared above the clouds. TCH, that bird and his bossy attitude. Whatever, listen to him, kid, the Machamp legacy does not have the word God in it for no reason. Train hard, I hope to see you win. When you meet, if you can kill the other, do it. Do not hesitate, as it will only serve to hinder you later on, it said before diving into the water and disappearing. Rex had a lot to think about. He didn't know what would happen when he mega-evolved Arcanine. But it was probably not going to look the same as other Arcanines, since Rex's had a legacy. He was sure that it had something to do with his true hidden form. Time would tell. He was close to finding out. A day's journey and he would arrive at Pallet Town. There, he would find the answers he seeks. He was also somewhat more confident, since two legacy Pokémon which could be weaker apart could be stronger together. He didn't dwell on it for much longer and directed his attention towards Machoke. Rex, we need to speed up our training, buddy. A great enemy approaches, your life and mine hang in the balance, he said solemnly. Machoke nodded heavily at his words. But a fire burned within him. For some reason, he knew that the fight would be soon rather than later. He didn't know why, but he could just feel something pulling him in a certain direction. He looked into the vast ocean in a certain direction. Far, far away on an island hidden from the world. A man sat on a chair looking at a blank screen with an annoyed expression. Mystery man, damn it, that fucker Giovanni can't even do something so simple. Killing a boy should be easy for a man running an organization as big as his, yet he only sends a pair of tits to him instead. If only he died, killing Machoke before it evolved would have been easy. But it seems that won't be possible. he said before looking at Umbra, who had a black aura seeping out of his skin like black flames. The Machamp opened its purple emotionless eyes and stared at the man before smiling. "Mystery Man, it seems you're eager to meet your brother," he said with a malicious smile. "Yes, I feel him. He is far away but I can feel him. We must locate him quickly. I feel his determination and power growing by the day. I also feel 3 other presences around him. They are powerful, 2 of them far exceed him and another is only slightly weaker than the other 2 but still powerful." "Do you have any clue who they could be?" asked Machamp via telepathy. The man grimaced slightly. "Mystery Man, let's just hope it isn't who I think it is, or else we'll have our work cut out for us," he said before rubbing his temples. "Mystery Man, and that's not even where the bad news ends. The recording you were watching and all the footage of your counterpart has been mysteriously deleted. I don't know who has that much power, but I think we should reevaluate our approach when encountering Rex Pierce and his soon-to-be Machamp. There is clearly someone powerful behind him. How else could they hack into my database and delete everything?" he asked himself with a tinge of fright. After all, he had debatably the best security in the world, comparable to the League Committee, and yet, it was shattered like paper. He was naturally completely clueless about the supreme existence that was the system. God was not a stingy man. Unbeknownst to Rex, the actions of the system had unintentionally made the mysterious man hesitate. In a mysterious space far beyond the scope of the Pokémon world, a man sat on a throne filled with stars. God, ha! Who would have thought my little gift to that brat would change the course of things so drastically? He said while looking at a string that stretched from one end of the hall to another with images. He was looking at a specific one that was to the far left of the hall. God, and to think that he would find out about the legacies so quickly. Those 2 birds are quite interesting. Is this fate at work? He asked before a filing cabinet appeared next to him. He rummaged through it for a little bit before pulling out a folder. God, oh yes, here it is. Indeed, that seems to be the case. Fate, you little bugger, he said with a laugh before throwing the folder away carelessly. Rex walked up to Arcanine, who seemed to be downcast after the battle. Rex, don't worry buddy. You were versing a legendary Pokémon that has been alive for centuries. If you were able to beat it right off the bat, well, that would be too incredible to believe. But don't worry, you'll beat it next time. By then you'll be able to Mega Evolve, he consoled before grinning. Arcanine perked right up when he heard that. Rex was right, he could do something called Mega Evolve, and he felt like it would awaken something hidden within him. He was excited to experience it. Rex, on the other hand, was thinking of a way to explain what would happen to Oak. Being the researcher that he is, Oak will probably ask questions he wouldn't be able to answer. Not because he doesn't know the answer, but because he didn't want to share it. Rex, fuck it. I'll just tell him I don't know. I'll act ignorant and avoid it all. It's not like he can study either Arcanine or Machoke since I won't be around. As for Arcanine's Mega Evolution, well, I'll just pretend that was the default one, and when it's proven that it's different, well, I'll act ignorant once again. He said carelessly. He did not care for the thoughts of others. The only reason he told Oak about the Mega Stone was to get the Keystone. After that, he would leave the next day. Thinking up to there, Rex and Machoke returned to the boat after recalling Arcanine back to his Pokeball. They were going to start doing intensive aura training from now on. And that meant increasing the frequency of training as well. Neither of them complained since it was for their future safety. The rest of the day was spent in silence. Rex had set the boat's course straight towards Pallet Town. There was no reason to stay there and therefore decided to spend the whole day training with Marchoke. They didn't have long to go. It had already been a week or so since they reached the last stage, and it wasn't the hardest to complete either. He only wanted to speed it up. The good thing was that Marchoke had an incredible talent for aura and was getting the hang of it quicker and quicker. It would probably only be at most another week before he evolved. The sun soon set, and the silvery moon took its place. Two silhouettes could be seen on the top of a bobbing boat amidst the raging wind and rain. Rex and Marchoke were like statues that were unfazed by the changes surrounding them. They sat there facing each other and continued to train in aura. Early the next morning the sun shone on their faces, which finally woke them up from their trance-like state. Rex looked at the land that was getting larger and larger in front of him. He got himself cleaned by jumping into the water before changing into a new pair of clothes he took out from his inventory. The boat soon approached a small dock near Pallet Town. There were local people fishing and doing their own thing. Rex was familiar with all of them. After all, he had been here for 4 months. He jumped off his boat and tied it to the pier before heading straight towards the lab. He didn't want to dally here any more than he had to. There was nothing here for him to do anyway. It took about 10 minutes to reach the lab, where he saw Oak eating something in his small kitchen. Next to him was surprisingly Gary. Rex thought that he would be off with his little cheerleading squad bullying Ash and his team. As soon as he walked in, Gary noticed something and turned around only to be stunned when he saw that it was Rex. Oak, who noticed Gary not paying attention, turned around to see what was going on. As soon as he saw Rex, he cheered happily and with extreme excitement placed his food on the table and walked quickly towards him. Oak, Rex, I'm so glad that you're here. I was looking forward to your arrival. I have what we need to proceed with the experiment. When are you free? He asked eagerly. Gary, experiment? What experiment? Can I join? He asked expectantly. Oak looked at Rex for his approval and he just nodded. It was something that would be made public soon anyway. Sycamore, having his data, would be able to release the results sooner. Having gotten permission to join, Gary was over the moon and happily skipped out into the paddock after Rex and Oak. Upon arriving, Oak took out a shiny stone that was the size of a fingernail, maybe slightly bigger. Rex had slightly quickened breath at the sight. This was no ordinary stone. It would be the turning point for him. After all, Mega Evolution was a massive trump card to have. Especially when you have more than one Pokémon that can Mega Evolve in your team. Unlike that dumb rule in the game, you could use Mega Evolution over and over again as long as a Pokémon had the corresponding stone. So, in a way, if you wanted, you could have a full team of 6 that could Mega Evolve, and you would sweep. Naturally, finding the correct stones was another issue altogether. And trainers like Tobias in Sinnoh didn't need stones to win. He was pretty much cheating from the beginning. Rex took the stone and placed it on the bracelet that he had. It hung off the side of it like those collectible charms. It was very fashionable. It wasn't as chunky and out of place as the game version. As soon as he did this though, he felt a strange connection to the stone. He then felt a connection being established with the Mega Stones he had in his inventory. He got Arcanine's stone from his inventory and summoned it in his pocket before pulling it out. Oak stared at the stone in Rex's hands with immense interest. Gary was clueless about what was going on, but seeing the look on his grandpa's face, he knew it was something of great value or importance. Or maybe both. Oak, 1 second Rex, I made something for Arcanine so that it can hold the stone, he said before heading back into the lab. He came back with a collar. A golden collar with a circular indentation on one side. Rex only hoped it could fit Arcanine. After all, he was much bigger than the usual ones. Rex didn't wait any longer and released Arcanine from his ball. Asterisk pop asterisk. Asterisk bang asterisk. Roar. Arcanine burst out of his pokeball in full might. Oak and Gary, who were expecting a normal orange dog, were shocked when they saw an over 2-meter tall blue and black monster. Arcanine looked at Rex and then at the two strangers he had never seen before. Rex, Arcanine, settle down, we are here to increase your strength, he said with a meaningful look. Arcanine knew exactly what the look meant, and he instantly got excited. Oak RXW, what Pokemon is that? Is that really an Arcanine from Kanto? He asked with his still shocked expression. Gary nodded at Oak's words, making it clear that he had the same questions. Rex had the answers prepared when he was still on the boat. Rex, I have no clue. He just evolved and looked like this. It is as much a mystery to you as it is to me, he said with a shrug while pretending to be perplexed about the issue. Oak sighed in disappointment. He thought that maybe there was a new discovery and that it could be replicated. But his bad mood didn't last long as he began to circle around Arcanine continuously, studying him and his physique. Rex, Professor, I think you are getting sidetracked from what we met up for, he said as he looked at Oak's actions with a helpless look. Oak, right, that is my bad. I was so surprised by this new Arcanine that I forgot about what we actually wanted to know, he said with an awkward chuckle before walking up to Arcanine. Rex told him to stay still since Oak was going to give him a present. Arcanine was more than happy to receive gifts and stood still. The golden collar was made out of metal and flexible materials and looked elegant but cool at the same time. Arcanine, who saw it before putting it on, was very happy with the look of it and began to walk pompously and abnormally, making sure to accentuate his neck. It made everyone laugh a lot. Rex got the stone he was holding and walked up to Arcanine and placed it in the indentation on the collar. Arcanine could feel some strange connection to the stone in Rex's hand and had the urge to touch it immediately. Rex, seeing Arcanine's reaction, was even more sure that there was something big that was about to happen. As soon as the stone was placed in the slot, it burst out with a shining brilliance before being fused into Arcanine, completely disappearing. Rex and Oak were shocked beyond words, and Gary looked on in annoyance about his ignorance. Rex was surprised due to a different reason from Oak's. He knew that something special would happen, but he didn't think that the stone would just fuse with him. Oak was shocked that the stone disappeared. He thought that this was all for naught and was getting increasingly depressed. Rex, Professor, relax, let's try out the results and see what comes out of it, he said calmly and looked at Arcanine. Just as he was about to do it, the system gave Rex a prompt. Advised against performing transformation here. The area is too close to town, it said. Rex stopped and nodded. The last thing he wanted was to attract more attention to himself. Rex, I don't feel like this is the most suitable place for this experiment. Professor, why don't you join me? I found an island on my way here that is perfect for what we need, he advised. It was for the best to be away from prying eyes. Oak was surprised at Rex's cautiousness but decided it was also for the best. Oak, sure, I don't mind. Gary, stay here, I will be back soon, he said before packing some things and following Rex onto his small boat that sailed back towards the island that Lugia had made. It was a day's travel, but it was for the best. Oak didn't seem to mind and took that time to research the ocean wildlife. Gary was annoyed that he couldn't go but didn't bother them and headed off with his cheerleading squad in order to continue his journey. Soon, a day flew by. Rex and Oak had arrived at the island early in the morning and were getting ready. Oak pulled out his camera to film the encounter. Rex only sighed slightly while shaking his head. This couldn't be generalized, but it was what it was. He called out Arcanine again, who was eager to go through with the transformation. Rex didn't hold back and touched the stone that was dangling from his wrist. A bright bolt of electricity shot out and rushed towards Arcanine. As it connected with his chest, Arcanine began to glow and was shrouded in a bubble of light that continued to grow to uncharacteristic proportions. Oak, who was holding the camera, was already losing his cool. He had witnessed a lot in his life, but Mega Evolution was not a part of it. This was his first time, and seeing the monstrous size of the bubble of light that Arcanine was inside of, he really couldn't imagine what it would turn out to be. While this was happening, far far away, a giant bird raised its head suddenly and looked in the direction of Rex. "Ha! The boy seems to have pulled off what I thought to be previously impossible. It seems the future has a lot in store for him," it said before laying down again. Within the ball of light that engulfed Arcanine, changes were rapidly appearing. His body grew and grew until it reached the 15-meter-long mark. But the biggest difference was his body shape. He was no longer shaped like a dog, but instead, a snake-like body with legs appeared. He looked like the ancient Eastern dragons. His tail grew longer and became fluffier. He grew golden horns from his head that shot backwards. He grew a single very long whisker on either side of his face. His paws were covered in royal blue fur. His color didn't change from black and blue except for his underbelly. It was now golden instead of a simple black. Look at paragraph comment for picture instead of the colors shown, replace them with the colors Arcanine had according to my book. Black and blue with gold. As the bubble of light burst, Arcanine's body appeared in front of Rex. As soon as he saw Arcanine's new look, he was shocked beyond words. Oak, who was holding his camera, had his mouth agape as he began to shake intensely. There was simply no way this was still Arcanine. He was literally a dragon. "Rex system scan Arcanine," he said in his head. *ding. Name: Arcanine, the Divine Light Pokemon. It is said that when this Pokemon appears, all disaster will vanish. That last one to have been seen was several centuries ago. Due to having a special interaction with the Mega Stone, Arcanine has unlocked its true hidden form. O Legacy status, unlocked. O Typing, Dragon, Light. O Level, 40. O Bond, 95%. O Height, 15 m. O HP, 600. O Attack, 600. O Defense, 600. OSP. ATK, 600. OSP. Definite, 600. O Speed, 600. O Ability, Blue Sun, without weakness. O Moveset, Morning Sun, Ember, Leer, Howl, Fire Fang, Agility, Flamethrower, Flare Blitz, Solar Beam, Iron Tail, Aerial Ace, Double Team, Will-O-Wisp, Crunch, Extreme Speed, Sunny Day, Smite, New. As he read the description given by the system, he was shocked by not only the stats and his ability not having the weakness, but the info the system provided. "Rex system, how do you know that?" he asked curiously. This was something even he didn't know. As soon as the host successfully used the keystone, the system received the relevant information that had previously been locked by God. It said, "Rex, I see, but do I still need the keystone to use his form every time?" No, that was only necessary for the first time. Arcanine can freely transform when necessary, but he is limited to 7 minutes in this form currently, it revealed. Rex, why? Arcanine must break the barrier aka level 100 plus in order to be able to use his form freely. It is currently limited due to his weak body. A qualitative change happens when a Pokémon breaks this level barrier. That is why, it explained. Rex nodded in understanding and focused on Arcanine, who was flying across the sky happily. When he realized that Rex was looking, he descended and stood right in front of Rex. Thank you for helping me get this strong, Rex. I vow to stay by your side till the day I am no longer needed, he said seriously while bowing his head. Oak, who was already shocked, almost had a heart attack when he heard Arcanine speak. Oak RRXW, can it speak? He could not think straight. This went against everything he thought possible before. Before Rex could respond, Machoke burst out of his Pokeball by himself and looked at Arcanine with seriousness in his eyes. Even in his giant form, Arcanine still flinched at that gaze and wasn't even embarrassed about it. He knew very well that Machoke would one day get just as strong or even stronger than him. Just because he was currently stronger, didn't give him the right nor the confidence to take his place as leader. That was the level of respect he had for Rex's first partner. Machoke nodded and turned around to stare at Rex deeply. Rex noticed the blaze in his eyes, so hot it could burn. Machoke was yearning for such power. Something within Rex was ignited. He felt weird, very weird. Rex system, what's going on? I feel odd, he said with a worried expression. This has something to do with the anomaly detected before. For some odd reason, due to the mental shift in Machoke, it has shown slight changes, it said. Rex was surprised, but he did feel that it was due to Machoke, he just didn't know why. Rex, we need to get stronger, I need to get stronger, even Arcanine has surpassed me. Said Machoke with annoyance. He wasn't mad at Rex, he was mad at himself for being so slow. Oak, who was on the brink of fainting, turned his head mechanically and pointed at Machoke with a shaking finger before fainting. This was a dream for a researcher, but it was too much too soon for him and he fainted. Rex was too busy to care and didn't pay him any mind. Rex, relax buddy, in a week at most, you will evolve, and when that happens, you will be just as strong as Arcanine, he said confidently. Rex moved on and looked at the typing change shown by the system. Rex system, what's with the typing change? What is the light type? This typing is very special. There is no other Pokémon so far that has this typing. It has no weaknesses except the Abyss typing. The system believes that the Abyss typing is given to the other legacy holder of the same species, one that is born out of cruelty and blood. On this subject, the eventual winner of the two Pokémon will attain the whole legacy as previously mentioned. But, no other legacy will be attainable for this species until the winner dies, effectively resetting the legacy again for the next generation, it said. Rex understood immediately. It seems that the two legacies really worked off of each other. The typing was swapped in exchange for the fire typing, but will receive extra boosts from the Blue Sun ability. All fire type attacks will do light damage instead of fire damage. Light still has a burning effect, in a way it can be seen as an enhanced version of the fire typing. He now understood, light would extinguish everything, but where there is light, there must also be shadows. That explains the Abyss typing. He was happy with the changes nonetheless. Next was the stats, there was no need to question it. It was a legacy Pokémon and one with a hidden form. It seemed that they had been doubled, but it came at the price of a 7-minute active period. Rex system, "What does the smite move do?" he asked as he observed the silent addition. "It will use the power within the Pokémon and unleash a massive beam of light that cannot be dodged or blocked, down on the target. The power ranges from 100%, 200% and finally 500% and deals damage based on the attack stat. But it will use energy for each attack. More energy will be used based on the percentage increase you want. If you want to use the 500% version, Arcanine will lose its form immediately and return to basic legacy mode. He will not be able to transform again until the next day. Rex understood this. A trade-off, time for power. He had 7 minutes if he attacks normally, but less if he used Smite. It seems he had to be careful when he used such moves and even more careful about the intensity of the attack. Rex didn't want to stay here for too long since the outburst of power from Arcanine's transformation might have attracted unwanted attention. He spent some time waking up Oak, who was deliriously rambling about a talking Machoke. Rex had directly deleted that part of the footage and told him it was all his imagination. He said that the pressure from the Mega Evolution was too much for him to handle and he fainted. Rex got the system to delete anything extra and only left about 10 seconds of Arcanine in his transformed state before cutting the video. Oak, who got the news, was a bit disappointed but instantly cheered up as he looked over the incredible footage. "Oak, thank you, Rex, this will be very useful to Professor Sycamore back in Colossus. He also said that you can keep the stone, as a token of appreciation." Rex was ecstatic at the revelation since he was worried he would have to give the stone back. "Rex, thank you, Professor, do you need me to send you back?" he asked. "Oak, no, this time I brought one of my old pals from my trainer days. Pidgeot here will take my back," he said as he held a Pokeball with a warm smile. Rex had nothing more to say and got on his boat before leaving. Oak could be seen quickly flying back to Pallet Town with a wide smile. Rex called out Machoke since he would spend every waking moment training Aura from now on. They both sailed off to Cinnabar Island where Rex would be taking on Blaine and his fire types. He was thinking of using Scyther for this battle since he didn't really participate much. Plus his initial plan of using Mega Arcanine went out the window with the whole Legacy revelation. Onix and Scyther were both approaching the time to evolve, and Rex was only waiting on the materials that would be delivered 1 week from now. The return journey was uneventful, Aura training was all they did since they were in a hurry to complete it for Machoke's evolution. No battles were commenced since every Pokémon could sense the power coming off from Machoke. It was done purposefully since Machoke didn't want to be interrupted by some arrogant blind Pokémon. The next day, the light rain sprinkled on Rex's face as he stared at the island he had only left a few days ago. He was happy to arrive though, he had been sidetracked from his gym battles for a long time. As he arrived on the docks and tied the boat to the pier masterfully, he noticed 2 old men gaping at the sight. He wondered what they were looking at but decided to ignore them before walking towards the hotel where he would be checking in for the night. He was planning on leaving the next day since he still had a good few gyms to go through. His Pokémon were getting increasingly stronger, and they would face less of a challenge the more time went on. He only walked until he discovered an alleyway where there was no one present. He summons his road bike, jumped on it, and sped towards the gym. He knew where it was, but if Blaine didn't know he had a challenger, he wouldn't be there waiting. He soon spotted an old man with a wig who Rex instantly recognized as Blaine. He stopped his bike just in front of him and took off his helmet. "Rex, oi!" "Blaine, "Stop pretending that disguise works and meet me at your gym," he said before putting his helmet back on and speeding towards the hot springs at the Riddle Inn. That was where the entrance to the gym was located. Blaine, who was minding his own business, was startled when he was discovered out of nowhere. When he turned around to see a young man calling him out, he was surprised before starting to laugh madly. "Blaine, the boy really thinks he knows where the gym is when I haven't even given him a clue. Damn these youngsters, so impatient. But how did he know it was me though?" he asked himself before heading to his personal entrance to the gym. He would go there anyway just in case, but he doubted the boy would show up. Rex had just arrived at the inn and walked through the sliding doors and into a wide room with a desk. At the desk, there was a man in a white shirt, red vest and black dress pants who was typing away on the keyboard. "Rex, good afternoon. I would like to reserve a room for the night. Also give me access to the hot spring please," he said with a smile. The young man looked up and saw Rex before nodding and continuing to type away on the keyboard. "Receptionist, all done. Please have a lovely stay," he said with a smile before ignoring Rex. He wasn't fazed by the treatment and walked towards the hot spring. He was going to battle Blaine before taking a nice relaxing dip in the hot spring with his Pokémon. They had earned it after all the work they had been doing on a regular basis. As soon as he got to the bathing section, he walked into the men's area, which was oddly empty. He didn't mind since it was for the best and stared at the statue that was off to one corner. A statue of an Arcanine to boot. He walked up to it and tapped around before finding a button in its open mouth. He smiled and pressed it, which set off a small rumble before the statue moved to the left, revealing a stone staircase leading downwards. He didn't hesitate to walk down and soon came across an underground area that opened up into a battlefield with fire everywhere. The heat would make it hard for some people to think straight, and if the battle is prolonged, dehydration could occur. It was a smart tactic. But it was ineffective since he covered himself in aura. As he continued to walk forward, he saw Blaine sitting by a rock petting his Arcanine's mane happily. When he noticed a newcomer, Blaine looked up before revealing a face full of shock. "Blaine H., how did you know where the entrance was?" "I'm sure I have never met you before," he said with certainty. "Rex, correct, we have never met, but it wouldn't be so hard to figure out. All I had to do was find someone who knew the location of the entrance to the gym." "I'm surprised you didn't think of that," he said truthfully. Blaine started to laugh heartedly before nodding his head. "Blaine, very smart. That was also an option. I didn't bother to change it since that also proved that you had some brains in your head," he said with a chuckle. Rex nodded. He didn't really care. Either way, he was here to get the gym badge. With a light throw, Scyther's Pokeball hit the ground and a small asterisk pop asterisk sound was heard before a 2-meter-tall green bug Pokémon appeared. Its scythe-like arms shimmered with a cold light. Scyther was already good to go and was waiting silently for Blaine's Pokémon. His stare surprised Blaine, as it was rare for a Pokémon to have such a gaze. Especially one as young as the one in front of him. Even when under this amount of heat, it didn't flinch nor show any reaction. Naturally, Scyther had been tempered like steel under the hard and fiery punches of Machoke over and over again. This little heat was nothing to him. Blaine didn't hesitate either and pointed forward. "Blaine, we have a strong opponent, Arcanine." A shadow flashed past the old man and a slightly smaller, 1.8 meter tall orange dog appeared opposite Scyther. It was already rare to see a Scyther match an Arcanine in height, much less surpass him completely. Arcanine attempted to intimidate his opponent by baring his teeth. But this only earned him a disdainful look from Scyther. His little brother was way more majestic and scarier than this little dog. Rex could only sigh at his reaction. He wasn't surprised. Compared to his Arcanine, the one Scyther was currently facing was barely comparable. Blaine, the battle will be a 3-on-3 battle. The challenger is the only one allowed to substitute his Pokémon, he said calmly. Rex simply nodded, nothing out of the normal for a gym. Not wanting to waste any time, Blaine commanded Arcanine to perform a Fire Fang. Rex nodded. It was a good move. Flying was neutral, and Bug was weak to it. But it wouldn't work. Rex Scyther, use Double Team and Leer, he said quickly. Scyther did as told and duplicated himself into 10, which moved to surround the running Arcanine. What was amazing was that every time Arcanine moved in one direction, the circle made of Scythers would too. This maintained the formation and stopped it from collapsing by one of the Scythers breaking away due to being under threat. Before Arcanine could chomp down on the Scyther he had finally caught, a blinding light surrounded him from every angle. He had to immediately close his eyes, which forced him to miss the attack. Rex, good, now use Swords Dance, he said calmly. While the 10 Scythers did the same exact dance, Rex was observing the terrain for any advantage he could use. There were only loose stones and small boulders. Just as he was about to give up, he got an idea. Rex Scyther, smash all the boulders in the surroundings. What he said confused Blaine, but Scyther had long learned to trust Rex, no matter the order. As he did so, the boulders on the field shattered one by one, leaving only small rocks everywhere on the ground. Rex, good, now stomp the ground and use double kick on the stones, he said quickly. Scyther didn't hesitate and smashed his foot down on the ground, making it tremble slightly before the stones that originally lay on the floor quietly began to fly into the air. Next, Scyther could be seen flashing everywhere in the air. He was sending small stones streaking across the field and smashing into Arcanine like bullets from a rifle. His legs had been trained to the extreme. It was all to prepare him for when he evolved. After all, Scizor couldn't fly. Arcanine couldn't dodge the rocks and was therefore pelted over and over again. The speed was terrifying. Blaine was shocked. He didn't think a Scyther that had blades for hands would use its feet instead. But he didn't have much time to think as he saw Arcanine sustaining more and more damage. Blaine, Arcanine, that's enough, use Heat Wave, he said quickly. Arcanine, still being hit by stones, amassed tons of heat inside of him before exploding it outwards in all directions. Rex didn't react to this since he had a trump card for unavoidable moves like this. Rex Scyther, use Protect, he said with a smile. Scyther conjured a shield around him that took the wave of sweltering heat perfectly. Blaine's face drooped into a frown. He didn't know that Scyther had that move. Rex, use Air Slash, he said, not giving any time for Blaine to think. Arcanine, who was regaining his footing after the barrage of vicious rocks, didn't have time to react to slash after slash of compressed air, cleaving at his body like a butcher to meat. Blaine was starting to sweat, but it was difficult to know if it was due to the heat or the pressure. Rex Scyther, end this, use Aerial Ace. He had been training with Scyther on how to put out the most damage in that window of time where his attacks couldn't miss. And this was the result. Scyther Flash stepped beside Arcanine and kicked his stomach, effectively folding him in half. Arcanine was licking his toes as he was sent rocketing into the air. Scyther didn't stop and flashed again, appearing on top of him before releasing a deadly axe kick to his back, folding him the other way. Arcanine, who was just going up, was sent back down mercilessly. Just when it thought it was over, Scyther reappeared below it and simply kicked forward, smashing his foot into Arcanine's side, sending him blasting into the wall beside where Blaine stood. Blaine craned his neck to the side as he mechanically turned around to stare at the arcanine lodged into the wall like a fossil. He was shocked beyond belief. Since when could scythers become such kicking machines? This was naturally information Rex had come across only after starting his training with Scyther. He didn't know that he had such strength in his legs and therefore began to teach him every style and type of kick in his memory. He also had the system analyze for mistakes and correct them appropriately. And this was the result of all that training. A killing machine you never saw coming. And the funniest thing was, no one would expect a kicking scyther or scissor. After all, why focus on its seemingly unassuming legs when it has two deadly weapons up top? And that is when they would regret their naive thinking. An took inspiration from the time Gun turned into adult mode and folded that cat chick. People who have seen Hunter x Hunter will know what I'm talking about. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Blaine **** damn, that was brutal. I have never seen a kicking scyther, and even more so one that can produce so much force. He said in astonishment as he recalled his arcanine. Rex, that is the beauty of it, he said frankly. Blaine nodded. Blaine, indeed. That is what battles are all about. And that rock kicking you did, exceptional quick thinking. Very smart of you. But I'm not out yet, he said as he threw out anything pokeball. What burst out of it was a bulky red and yellow Pokemon. It was Magmortar. Rex was wary of it since according to the system, it could create fireballs that were up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Although that was extremely doubtful, it didn't diminish the fact that it was probably hot. After all, the Pokédex was completed by a bunch of kids. And they exaggerated everything. Blaine smiled and commanded Magmortar to use Flamethrower. He didn't hesitate and breathed in, causing the already hot air to become even hotter before it came out of his arms. The heat was immense. Rex no longer doubted that it was hot, but definitely not to the extreme of being 3,500 degrees. Rex Scyther double team and swords dance, he said quickly. He was already +2 and with this opening, it would be +4. The flamethrower landed on a scyther only for it to disappear like it had hit an illusion. Magmortar frowned and continued to spray his incredibly hot fire everywhere. But the time only 2 scythers were remaining, they had already completed Sword's Dance and the remaining clone faded. Scyther was unscathed and Blaine grimaced. But he didn't let up. Blaine used Flame Wheel. Magmortar began to roll forward at increasingly fast speeds as he sped towards Scyther. Rex didn't know what he was thinking but decided to meet it head-on. Rex Scyther use counter. Scyther got into a defensive position and waited for impact. Blaine grinned when he saw that, which made Rex unsettled, but it was too late to stop the attack. They both collided. Scyther used his powerful legs to stay upright, albeit half-buried, and retaliated instantly with double the damage. Flame Wheel was stab and super effective, so even though Scyther took a lot of damage, Magmortar was sent smashing into the wall and fell unconscious. Rex expected Blaine to frown at that but was surprised since he saw him grinning instead. He was confused and was about to ask when he saw Scyther stumble and fall to one knee as small flames burst from his body. It suddenly hit Rex. Flame body. He face-palmed. Now Scyther did half the damage and was burned with on-recovery moves. Plus, it had sustained heaving damage from the last encounter. He was done for the match. Blaine, you seem to have realized it. I knew I wasn't going to win this match if your Scyther was still on the field. He must be your strongest Pokemon, so by taking him out now, I can turn this around, he said with a smile. Rex was flabbergasted. Since when was Scyther his strongest Pokémon? But when he put himself in Blaine's shoes, it made sense. For a Pokémon to be so uncharacteristically strong and unique, it would require a lot of time and effort. Usually you would only have time to train one or two to such mastery. But he had the system and Machoke who helped by co-training the Pokémon. So, he could circumvent that issue. He could only commend Blaine for giving it his best, but it would only get more difficult for him. After all, his other Pokémon were even better matchups for his fire types. He debated on who to use and decided on Arcanine. He was feeling upset about the loss, and Rex wanted to cheer him up, so giving him a win in a gym battle would be adequate. Rex, commendable effort, but you made one big miscalculation, he said with a sudden smile. Blaine felt like he missed something. Blaine, and what could that be? He asked. Rex, Scyther is not my strongest, but currently my weakest, he said simply. But to Blaine, this was like the roof had collapsed. He was stunned with his mouth agape. How could that be possible? The Scyther was already a nightmare, and here he was, hearing his opponent say that it was his weakest Pokémon. It was simply ludicrous. Blaine, why, young man, please don't joke, he said, wiping away the building sweat in his forehead. Rex didn't bother to convince him further and shrugged. Rex, well, actions speak louder than words, he said as he threw out his next Pokeball. Asterisk pop asterisk roo. A deafening roar could be heard as Arcanine took to the field. A wave of heavy pressure flowed out of his majestic image. Blaine was shocked beyond words. He had spent almost a lifetime with his Arcanine, and yet, he had never seen one so different yet powerful. He wanted to ask questions, but when he saw Arcanine's stare he gave up. He knew he couldn't win, but his pride as a gym leader forced him to battle to the very end. Blaine asterisk sigh asterisk, this will be an uphill battle, Ninetales, but one we must climb, he said as he threw the Pokeball he was just whispering to into the field. With a asterisk pop asterisk, a strong Ninetales appeared, swaying his tails as he observed the biggest Arcanine he had ever seen in his life. It dwarfed the one he was friends with. Rex stared at the Ninetales that was opposite him. There was no competition. If Arcanine could fight toe-to-toe with Lugia and barely lose, a mere Ninetales wouldn't be of importance. Rex, Arcanine, let's move fast, use extreme speed. Arcanine howled loudly, which made the room shake slightly before his figure faded slowly. Blaine, who was looking on, was only confused for a moment before a asterisk bang asterisk could be heard. He looked at where Ninetales was only to see Arcanine, silently standing there. Ninetales smashed into a wall before he could react. It was frightening. What power! Rex nodded contently before commanding again. Rex used Double Team and Crunch. Arcanine split into 6 and sped towards Ninetales as dark energy amassed in his mouth. Blaine knew he couldn't be hit by this, or it would be all over. Bane, use Confuse Ray and pay back, he said quickly. Ninetales did as told and sent out a multicolored light that further split into 6 and hit all of the Arcanines. Now that they were confused, 2 of them hit each other, effectively disappearing. Another 2 smashed into walls, disappearing as well. The final clone was smashed by the real Arcanine as it was about to hit him. The real one proceeded to attack straight, holding on to the last memory of where Ninetales was. As the crunch hit, instead of Ninetales being sent backwards, Arcanine was instead blasted into a wall due to payback. After all, Arcanine had immense physical attack. Double the damage took a hefty chunk out of him. Ninetales was on the ground as well. After all, crunch did land on him. About 20 seconds later, both Pokémon got up, but Ninetales was on shaky legs. Rex was astounded, he couldn't believe that he was still standing. Rex, impressive Pokémon you have, to be able to take this much punishment and still stand, he said truthfully. Blaine smiled slightly and nodded. Rex, but that is all it will amount to, sadly. A good effort, he said while shaking his head. Rex Arcanine use sunny day and morning sun, he said calmly. Blue sun only gave a benefit to Arcanine. The opponent wouldn't receive a benefit from it. So Ninetales wouldn't have his fire attack do more damage. Arcanine didn't hesitate and launched a ball of bright energy into the air which hit the ceiling. It immediately got bright inside, like the sun was there. But it soon turned a shade of blue and the heat, which was already immensely hot, started to rise even more. Blaine was panting heavily as sweat poured down his forehead in an almost constant stream. But he didn't care, he was shocked at what he was seeing. The originally slightly injured Arcanine healed back up to full health in an instant as the blue rays of sunlight graced his figure. He had never seen a move like that before. He was freaking out and quickly issued an order. Blaine, use hypnosis. Ninetales released soothing sound waves from his mouth which rushed towards Arcanine. Rex tried to get him to dodge, but because Arcanine had just used a move, he reacted too slow and was eventually hit by it. Blaine smiled triumphantly. Blaine, use Dream Eater, he said quickly. Ninetales sent another wave of psychic energy towards the sleeping Arcanine and drained his HP. Arcanine was left with 3/4 of his health and Ninetales recovered about half. The difference in HP was evident. Rex was beginning to get annoyed that this was going on for so long and decided it was time to wrap up. Get up, he yelled via telepathy. Arcanine, who was silently sleeping, awoke with an earth-shattering roar. When he realized what happened, he was ashamed. There were many ways that could have been used to avoid hypnosis. Using extreme speed to dodge it was the fastest way, but neither of them thought about it. The attack came so suddenly. Rex Arcanine, use extreme speed into Flare Blitz, he said seriously. Arcanine howled and his figure faded as he reappeared in Ninetales' face. The blue fire threatened to burn all the air in the cave as he smashed into Ninetales. But what stunned Rex was the smile on Blaine's face. Blaine, you're getting sloppy, he said, just in time to see Ninetales getting up as if it was fine. Rex, flash fire. Fuck, he cursed to himself. Rex, ha. Fine. You got me on that one, old man. I seemed to have miscalculated, he said before calming down. The sudden increase in his Pokémon's power made him confident in winning easily. But battles aren't always so straightforward. Abilities, the battlefield, everything could be used to change the situation around. Just like he did with Scyther, it was now being done to him. He forgot about the potential abilities. He should have realized when Drought didn't appear. Ninetales only has one other ability. Rex Arcanine, use extreme speed into Aerial Ace, he said. Arcanine did as told and rushed towards Ninetales as a sonic boom was created. Blaine also got ready. Blaine, Ninetales, use Will-O-Wisp around yourself, he said with a smile. Rex caught on to what he was trying to do, but Arcanine was already there. The first paw smashed into Ninetales, sending him flying into the air. Arcanine reappeared behind him and kicked downwards, but just as he made contact, his leg was hit by the balls of purple fire that orbited around Ninetales. He instantly got burned and dropped to the floor. The attack was interrupted. But Ninetales still sustained a lot of damage. Arcanine got up but didn't have enough time to react before Blaine commanded Ninetales to use Hex. The damage was severe and Arcanine dropped to the ground. Rex didn't panic, he took a deep breath. "Rex, use Morning Sun," he said. Arcanine had bright blue sunlight shine on him which brought him back up to full health. Blaine grimaced at the sight. Such a move was simply cheating. Rex was contemplating using Arcanine's dragon form and sending Ninetales to hell with a smite. But that would take all meaning out of the fight. "Rex Arcanine, use extreme speed and run around Ninetales," he said. Arcanine didn't hesitate and began to run so fast a tornado was formed. Blaine didn't know what he was trying to do but still attacked nonetheless. "Blaine, use Flamethrower," he said quickly. Tongues of flames hit the tornado only for it to combine. Rex smiled, the air was being sucked out of the middle where Ninetales stood, and the fire burned the air revolving in the tornado. Ninetales was suffocating. "Rex, use Flamethrower," he said with a grin. Arcanine howled and sent a massive wall of blue flame ahead of him that connected to the tornado. The originally grey tornado went orange before turning bright blue. Blaine understood what was going on, but there was nothing he could do. The tornado was too strong to break out of. He couldn't find a way to reverse the situation. Rex thought so too and was only waiting for Ninetales to faint. As both parties watched on until Blaine suddenly snapped his fingers with a smile. "Blaine, use Dig," he said. Ninetales nodded and dug into the ground. Rex, who saw this, grinned. His smile was so wide it stretched his lips to the extreme. "Rex, use Solar Beam on the ground," he said. A solar beam that did 3 times the damage coming from a Pokémon with 300 plus special attack. That and Screaming Annihilation Cannon were the same thing. A massive amount of green light began to amass in Arcanine's mouth as he jumped into the air. It got brighter and brighter and then silence. Completely and utter silence as the death beam hit the floor. The solar beam hit the floor of the battlefield like a death cannon from space. The floor cracked like an earthquake had hit and green light shot out from the cracks. Ninetales that was underneath the floor was blasted out of the ground and into the nearby wall where it stayed there. Blaine didn't have any words. He was sweating so much due to the fight, his old body just couldn't keep up and he fainted shortly after. Rex was surprised and worried. Arcanine stopped using his ability after healing himself and rushed towards Blaine and Ninetales in order to check if they are okay. "Rex, are they okay?" he asked as he kneeled down to take their pulse. Arcanine sniffed Ninetales before nodding. Rex could feel Blaine's pulse and sighed in relief. He carried Blaine out of the gym via his secret entrance that was, coincidentally or not, opposite the Pokémon Center. When he burst in, everyone looked over. Many gasped could be heard as he made his way over to Nurse Joy. "Rex, he's fine, he just suffered from dehydration and heatstroke. Ninetales over there is much worse. It was hit by an incredibly powerful solar beam and fainted. Please help," he explained quickly and clearly. Nurse Joy was a professional and calmly rushed over and took Ninetales while also calling the hospital. After all, the Pokémon Center was for healing Pokémon, not trainers, even if they did provide places for rest. Soon an ambulance siren could be heard outside which carried Blaine in a stretcher. Rex sighed, he was tired. Had recalled Arcanine back to his ball quickly. He didn't want to catch much attention. Just in case, he asked the system to delete all footage in the cameras from the past 10 minutes and to go through all the phones and check that no one had secretly taken a picture. He didn't think so since most people were too focused on Blaine to care about a Pokémon. But what shocked him was that there were two people who were quickly making their way to the port at fast speeds. The system had identified them as Team Rocket members. Rex grinned evilly. He handed Scyther's ball to Nurse Joy before heading out of the gym. He walked behind the center and into an alley where he pulled out his bike and zoomed off in the direction of the duo. Grunt 1, run faster, you fat shit. We need to get this information to Boss Giovanni. We found that Rex Kid and he has another odd Pokémon with him, he said as he looked at the fat Rocket member that waddled behind him. His fat jiggled everywhere as he huffed and puffed to keep up. They finally reached the pier and stole a boat from one of the two old fishermen sitting nearby. The two old men were pushed into the water by the fat guy who was pissed off about his partner's words. Rex, who had just arrived, saw a small boat sailing off at fast speed. The back end of it was slightly sunken in due to the fat guy sitting on the back catching his breath. He once again thanked God for allowing him to get the option of never getting fat. It was a small box on the menu he almost didn't see. Just thinking about it, he started to sweat. The old men who had just gotten out of the water noticed Rex and pointed at the boat. Old man 2H, help us, those two idiots took our boat, he said angrily. Rex noticed it was the same two men he had seen when he got back but didn't bother to say anything. He just nodded and sprinted forward before diving into the water. While in mid-dive, he got a pokeball from his belt and threw it out. As Rex dived into the water, a blood-red, 15-meter-tall Gyarados appeared and roared loudly, shaking the pier. Rex hopped on his back as Gyarados lunged out of the water. The two old men were stunned stupid as they looked at Rex's sequence of actions. It looked like something straight of a movie. Rex was also cheering in his mind. Rex, ha ha ha. I can't believe that worked, he thought. Rex, Gyarados chase after that boat, he said seriously. Gyarados nodded and sped forward like a speedboat, breaking the waves like they were foam. It didn't take more than a minute to reach them. The fat guy in the back had his head resting backwards, staring at the sky, still trying to catch his breath when he saw potentially the scariest thing in his life. He lost half his weight in shit that day. A shadow loomed over his face. Gyarados was looking at him angrily. Rex, Gyarados, Hyper Beam, he said with a grin. The fat guy's face paled completely. Fat grunt, KK Kevin. Kevin, you fucker, go faster, he yelled at the top of his voice. Grunt 1, stop, scream, you fat shit, what's hap? He couldn't finish as a massive beam of light engulfed the entire ship. When it finally faded, a hole in the sea devoid of water could be seen with a charred seabed. But it was soon filled with water again. But the boat had turned to ash. Rex, fuck the boat, he face-palmed. He got back under the expectant gaze of the two old men. But when they saw that the boat wasn't with him, they got depressed. Old man, to our boat, he said in a depressed tone. Rex, sorry, it got destroyed in our fight, but I can get you the same one if you want, he said with an apologetic smile. Old man 1, that boat can't be replaced with the same model. Our one had lots of memories in it, he said reproachfully. Rex, what can I do to make it up to you, he said. Old man 2, I guess money would do. We don't need a lot, he said with a sad face. Rex, got it, how about $1 million then, he asked. Old man 2, I would like my boat, not money, but that would do, he said with a nod. Rex got the system to transfer it and soon the old man got a message on his phone saying it was delivered. He was still sad but thankful. But as soon as Rex left the venue, the two old men scurried to a corner and laughed like a bunch of scammers. Old man one, he. I can't believe he gave us that much money. Old Joe, your acting is still as good as your golden days, he exclaimed as he patted the other old man's shoulders. Old Joe humph. It never declined. And yes, we got a lot of money this time around. That rust bucket was worth about $10,000 at most, and he gave us this much. Man, feels good to be old. Everyone pities old people, he said with a chuckle. What they didn't know was that Rex had tapped their phones after he had left and heard their conversation. Would host like to take back the money, it asked. Rex, nah, let them have it, he had good acting skills. If only the greed in his eyes could have been hidden, I might have fallen for it. And then there was the heart rate. Didn't know you could do that system, he said with a soft smile. Host never asked. Rex, fair. Rex headed back to the Pokemon Center to collect Scyther before heading to the hospital to see how Blaine was doing. He hopped on the bike he had left near the pier and sped off. People blurred past as he went left and right between cars. The thrill of riding a bike was something a car couldn't compare to, but so was the security. One misstep and he was off on a date with the pavement. Getting there was not an issue and he arrived quickly, picked up his Pokeball from Nurse Joy and headed to the hospital. The sliding doors opened, and the smell of hand sanitizer wafted into Rex's nose. As he looked around, he saw people waiting there patiently to be attended to. There was also the constant buzzing as the was in full swing. People rushing in and out here and there. It was chaotic compared to the calm atmosphere over here. The piano music was also quite calming. Rex, hello, I'm here to see Blaine, the gym leader. He was recently admitted here due to heatstroke, he said with a smile. The receptionist looked up at him and smiled back before nodding and typing away at her keyboard. Receptionist, yes, that is correct, you only have 1 hour of visiting time. He is currently residing in room 207 in the left wing, she said with the same smile before attending to the person behind him. He thanked her and walked towards the left where a long corridor could be seen. People were coming in and out of doors, parents, children, doctors, nurses, it was all as it should be. As he made his way forward, he noticed how clean the floors were. He could clearly see his own reflection. The sound of voices was constantly being heard and cut off as doors opened and people went in and out. Chairs were located in front of every room for people who were waiting for whatever it was that they were waiting for. Rex ascended the flight of stairs and headed to the second floor. Then he walked to room 07, which was where Blaine was being held. As soon as he went to push the door, he found himself in an empty room, much bigger than what a common hospital room should be. On a chair by the window, a man sat. But Rex knew who he was instantly, which didn't help to alleviate the shock he was feeling. Rex, I didn't die again, did I? Why are you here, God? He asked. God, huh? You didn't die. I just popped in for a visit. I noticed that something has been secretly bugging you for a while. But first, come and sit with me, the weather on your planet is very nice, he said with a smile as he turned around. Rex did as he was told and sat down next to God and looked out the window to see sparse pigeons flying around messing with each other. God, how are you liking this world so far? He asked without looking at Rex. Rex, it's great, all I could have asked for. About what you said before though, what do you mean? He asked with uncertainty. God, getting right into it, are we? All right. Well, I meant your past life. Your memories keep bugging you. Your sad life keeps stopping you from enjoying this one to the fullest. It allows you to appreciate it, but not enjoy it, he said, shaking his head calmly. A cup of tea materialized in his hands. Rex was stunned. He didn't think God would still be paying so much attention to him. But he was right. The memories from his past life stopped him from enjoying this life to the fullest. His 50-year-old mindset felt out of place in this body. Rex, yes, what you said is correct, but there is nothing I can do about it, he said helplessly. God, huh? Well, I've been watching you for a while and that system of yours is very handy. You're a very wise man for asking for it. Saved you a whole lot of time. I am prepared to help you forget everything about your past life. You will retain your experiences and knowledge that give you the advantage you asked for, but you won't be plagued by the memories of your sad life. I should have done this for you last time. But I thought you wanted to keep them. It seems it was an oversight on both our parts. Rex doubted God made any oversights ever, period. But he would like to not be plagued by this melancholic feeling that dwelled in the deepest parts of him. He wanted to be free from his past life and be the reckless, lively youth he always wanted to be. Rex, I would greatly appreciate it if you could help me with this, sir, he said with his head slightly bowed. God, huh? Don't worry about it. When you awaken, you will be a new man, who isn't plagued by past troubles. Set this as a new beginning. Soar to even greater heights, young man. I look forward to what you will accomplish, he said before fading. Rex came back to himself and pushed the door open as if nothing happened. Unbeknownst to him, God had erased his memory of their meeting. He was no longer than the same old man in the body of a young lad. He was a young man with knowledge and experiences that far surpassed that of everyone his age. He was a new Rex, someone who was on a journey to discover the apex of Pokemon. Someone who everyone would look up to, someone who would forge his future, not bound by his past life's regrets. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. Also make sure you tell me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.